fire of God descend into these hearts. So mitigate, legions of Elohim, mitigate the fire, that the fire might burn on yet not consume the fragile soul who must yet put on garments impervious to physical and spiritual fire. We come out of the great central sun magnet. We come to continue our message delivered by the messenger. Our message to you is this: consider now why you should have fragments of soul scattered throughout the cosmos. Why is it so, beloved? Venture the query in your heart and listen to the response. It is this: your hearts in the beginning, when you were created out of the white fire ovoid of God, had the charge of the great central sun magnet. Yet, in tumbling down the octaves and landing where you have landed in this band of the physical octave, it has come to pass because of your descent and because of having spent that light, that you no longer have conjoined to your heart chakra or threefold flame the elements of the great central sun magnet. This is why we have spoken and said, we call our messenger to perform for you the ritual of soul retrieval, and we shall call her again and again. As you prepare for the next ritual of soul retrieval, so take note, beloved, that it is the strengthening of your heart that must be our assignment to you. To strengthen the heart, one must first balance the threefold flame of the heart, for the heart flame cannot increase if it is out of balance. There are 4 points to the threefold flame. The foundation point is the foundation of the Sefirot, Malchut Shekhinah. There you find the foundation of the square, the white cube. There you find the Divine Mother. Out of the white fire of the Divine Mother, there then do spring forth the 3 plumes. The plume of God's holy will that is empowering, the plume of God's holy wisdom that is also empowering, and the plume of divine love empowering. These must be in sync, they must be in harmony as the fleur de lis. Know then, beloved, that there is little attainment that you can gain and keep unless you pursue daily devotions on the love ray, devotions to the I Am Presence, the Holy Christ Self. And after you have given your calls and dynamic decrees and devotions and mantras in the power of the love ray, you must go forth and actively dispense love. Love to the level of sacrifice and service and surrender and selflessness. Love that compels from within the giving of oneself again and again and again. Most interactions of life are made up of flames of mercy and forgiveness. These must come daily also. And so, beloved, how do you know when one plume is larger than the other? There is the pure vibration, for instance, of the blue plume. Then there is the misuse of the blue plume. The will of God is opposed by tyranny, by criticism, condemnation, judgment, and gossip, hardness of heart, all sorts of manifestations that you can identify with. Thus, the clean flame that burns is the flame of the purity of your heart and being of all ages on that plume, the blue plume. So it is as you consider the yellow and the pink. To determine the balance of the threefold flame within you is quite simple. I will tell you how. When the threefold flame is balanced and the white sphere becomes, as it were, the vase for these three plumes, then you will find that there is balance in the body, in the psyche, in the brain. You will find that you have made peace with yourself, for you are in the balanced equilibrium. Where you are out of alignment, where you have upsets, even where your astrology is out of kilter, so that it indicates the warring in the members, there you will understand that there is more power and misqualified power given than there is the balance of the threefold flame. So come into the understanding, beloved, that you began many, many centuries ago when the threefold flame was reduced at the time of the sinking of the continent at Atlantis. Since that time, God ordained that the threefold flame should be reduced to 1/16 of an inch in height. So we say that though many of you have made considerable strides on the path of everlasting life, the strides that you must seek and embody must be the daily balancing of this threefold flame, for it will not increase in size until there is balance, perfect balance. Therefore, strive for balance at all levels. Balance in your life, balance in your work, balance in your service, balance in your prayers. Sometimes there does well up within you the fire of the heart, and you have such a surge of sensing that fire of God that you desire to intensify your service, to transcend yourself. This is admirable, yet see again that you are able to pace those strides even while you are accelerating. For the truth is that you will not accelerate unless you advance yourself in a greater pace than you may now entertain. If man is to transcend himself, then he must find those moments, as when he is a runner in the Olympics, when he must press forward and give the all of his being to win the prize. May it be the prize of the torch that symbolizes the Olympics and the runners in the races long ago. You see, beloved, one cannot stay at a certain self-determined pace and say, "This only will I do. I will not do more, even if called upon. This is my pace." These individuals so signify by this attitude that their threefold flame is either so small or not even existent any longer, so that they are no longer runners in the race for the prize of the high calling in God. They now have placed themselves on a treadmill. They will do thus and such every day and no more, and they shall do so for wages. And thus, beloved, this circumstance leads to not only the doldrums, but to the death of the soul itself. If you have lost the momentum of everlasting life and you find yourself, the soul, in a state of mortality, then to regain that original immortality, something more than walking about as a human, as a mortal, going here and there and moving according to the systems of socialism that no longer require excellence or individuality or contact with God, for the state has become God, the Father, Mother God have become merely a check that is doled out to all whether they work or they do not work. This is the death of civilization. Some of you have been at these levels in civilizations where potentates ran all things and most of the population were in slavery, even as there is still vast slavery in nations in the earth today. So then, beloved, you have in those embodiments, perhaps according to karma, perhaps according to soul testing, found it also that life is drudgery, life continues round and round and round and round. Therefore we come to say, break the spell. Understand that you are in a minus position. You are not in a plus position until you have such strength in the threefold flame, which is also called the Holy Christ flame, that you have a fervor that will carry you to the point of transcendence over and over and over again, until there is such a momentum of self-transcendence that you become part of the heart of God, the heart of your Holy Christ self, and something changes. And what changes on that day and date is that you know internally that something, and that something being the sacred fire of the heart flame itself, has changed. It has changed because it has increased, because you have nourished it and watered it daily as a precious flame, a flower flame of God. And suddenly that surge of flame is felt as the white fire of ascension's flame. And all of a sudden you say, I am born again. Now you understand the Ascended Master's teaching on what it means to be born again. The original birth in the great central sun we have mentioned. The loss of the gift of the threefold flame and its reduction in Atlantis we have mentioned. Now we say, those who desire to return to the Holy Christ self and the Holy Christ flame do reach that point of the self being overcome by the greater self. And then there is the sacred fire, and then there is the ascension flame, and then you have the sense, I have finally cut myself free from the downward pull of an absence of developed threefold flame. Now my threefold flame is increased. Now I can soar. Now I can take upon my person, my heart, my chakras, that which can be contributed to the glory of God. So therefore, returning to the idea of being born again, there is the birth in flesh and blood, and there is the birth in the spirit. Being born again means that, according to God, you have once again come to your original inheritance when your threefold flame was greater in height. Thus being born again of the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, and of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Mother, you recognize that you graduate from being called a child of God to being called a son or a daughter of God. And this is the measure and the stature of every man, woman, and child upon this planet. Whether you have increased and balanced the threefold flame, and in your service balanced much karma, thus having Christ and Christ flame within you, you are then called a son with a capital S and a daughter with a capital D. Next, beloved, you are called children of the Son with a lowercase c, where you have that threefold flame, but it is not sufficient whereby you can make your ascension. You are still drinking of the milk of the word, and you have not yet digested the meat of the word. Then there are those below the level of the calling children of God, and these are they who have lost the flame, mostly through anger and the Martian A's that the messenger has taught you about. They then are definitely on the minus side of point zero, and in that minus side they could descend many levels into the astral plane. These are to be pitied, for they have nothing, and therefore they call themselves the have-nots, and they expect the haves to give to them that which they have lost. And sometimes that loss is conscious, and sometimes it is unconscious. But beloved ones, whichever it is, the law records the failed test. And so these whose lamps have gone out, for they have not stored the oil in their heart chakra, they are continually looking to others who have light and the threefold flame. They look to them in anger, they look to them pleading for help, yet they have not helped themselves, and they have thrown away what others have carefully guarded. Thus I return now to speak to you regarding soul retrieval. Soul retrieval also involves the retrieving of the misqualification of the three plumes of the threefold flame and the white sphere of the mother. Where you have misqualified, you have been the losers. Where you have correctly qualified, you have had gain. But in the aggregate today, the percentages are high that most individuals, even those on the path, have not developed the heart sufficiently to be able to call it a magnet heart, for want of another term. Thus it takes the great central sun magnet to magnetize back to you the fragments of the soul. And many of you have seen how those fragments have come home in the last 24 hours. You may raise your hands if you have had this experience. This soul retrieval ritual will be performed again and again for you by the messenger. The reason we cannot give to you this ritual without the messenger is because we must have one, and it is the messenger whom we have raised up. Who is that one? Who holds in her heart and has in her heart a sufficiency of elements of the great central sun magnet, as well as our overshadowing of her with that magnet, in order that she might give the invocations for the elements of the soul to return. Once they have returned, beloved, then you must work daily with the exercises of the threefold flame, for by that flame and only that flame will you retain that which you have lost. Thus, we have spoken and stated that the messenger will perform this ritual again and again, certainly at every quarterly conference from now on. In the interim, you have approximately the 12-week periods to work on yourself, to prepare yourself for the next ritual. I counsel you to make this a priority, for it is the priority of your very life. It is the priority of yourself and your twin flame. It is the priority that is given to you and spoken through us today from the heart of Alpha and Omega. And in addition to the soul retrieval, whereby parts of the soul are retrieved, there are those elements of God as taught by the Kabbalists that have also gone out of the way and are imprisoned, that must be liberated. These are portions of yourself in the soul families. So, beloved, you can see that you are in this lower universe so that you might transmute, you might recapture, you might establish here the virtues and the 10 virtues of the great Sphirot, that you might bring God's kingdom on earth in order that God's kingdom might rise into heaven again. God has descended into the earth through you, and elements of God are therefore imprisoned in you. Can you understand this, beloved? It is truly a mystery how God, being the God of the universe, could be entrapped in man and woman and child. But think of it this way. God has already placed himself through the Atman, which is the manifestation of the threefold flame, in every child of his heart, every son and daughter. So this part of God is imprisoned in your temple. You then become the master of your temple. You do what you will with this threefold flame. You misuse it, and God suffers. You use it wisely, and God rejoices. This is how you can understand the teaching that God is imprinted, God is imprisoned in matter. Think about these deep mysteries. Think about the groaning and the travail of the soul. Think about the Holy Spirit who comes after you to take you up in his arms. Think about God control. Think about God control, beloved ones. We desire to see you make the most of the rest of your embodiment. We desire to see those who come home balance 100% of their karma and also gain mastery and freedom and joy, transcending the drudgery of working out one's karma day by day. Yes, beloved, the great central sun magnet, which is sealed within the great central sun, is surely something to contemplate once a day. You may visualize it as a golden fiery disk within the sun disk. It is truly a force that controls all life in the entire matter cosmos. Truly, beloved, God has placed in the matter cosmos all that you require in order to return to the spirit cosmos. I leave you with these thoughts so that you might contemplate what truly is your mighty work of the ages. We are Elohim, purity and Astrea. We seal you in white fire. We bless you, our children, and we call you to come home, come home, come home.